everybody. I figured it'd be kind of cool to do something a little different besides just make music. I figured I could show you kind of how I make the stuff that I make, whether that's music videos or the songs themselves. So today I thought it'd be cool to go over my first, I guess you could say, real like music video for November Part 2.
We play big moves, I stay, you move. Don't know where he came from, you talk about him now like he's worth $1 million.
I did this kind of like a spur of the moment kind of thing. I knew I always wanted to do something sort of in this vibe, in this style, but I didn't know how well it would turn out. Originally, this was just going to be just a normal video, and it would just be kind of cutting between different points, just sitting on the bench, just kind of like a visualizer. And then I had the idea to put two of me beside each other for some parts of the video, you know, singing along, doing whatever. And then that was just going to be it. It was just going to be that, no like visual edits or anything like that. And then I was on a call with my buddy for like 6 hours, and we were just hanging out, just chilling. I was working on this. I was working on this video, and I was showing him my progress and kind of how I was doing whatever. And then he told me, he's like, "Hey, what if you kind of added like a TV, like a retro TV style to the footage?" I'm like, that might be hard to do, but we'll try it out. So I found some tutorials, found some YouTube videos, and it ended up going from this
I don't want no problems cause I'm saying yes
to this.
and there ain't no need to plead.
So I thought it was pretty cool, but let me give you kind of a rundown on the project file, I guess you could say, for how I made this video. So this is the file here. I use Premiere Pro to edit my video because it has a lot of really fine tweaks you can do for things, and also has a lot more capability for more advanced pro level editing. I'm not saying I'm a pro level editor by all means, let me get that out there, but I learned a lot of what I know from, you know, YouTube videos and doing exactly what they told me. If you asked me to recreate that from scratch, no video help, I probably wouldn't be able to get it half as good as this. But some of it I did find out myself, and I want to show you what I did find out, because I think it's pretty cool how you can do this stuff. So let me get rid of the filters first. I'll go over those in a moment. Basically, we have the raw footage here. This is with a little bit of color correction. Now, let me start off by saying I really messed up on the time I shot this. It was around 6 o'clock at night. The sun was setting, right? So every time I switched spots during my filming, it would have been a little darker. So then my phone, because I recorded it on my phone, would have had to boost a lot of the settings to make it look brighter. But in doing that, some of the footage is going to look a little more grainy, or the colors are going to be a little off. So editing that in post makes it a little more difficult. Aside from all that, it didn't look too bad once I fixed it up. There's some notable difference. Let me restart that. There's some noticeable differences though in certain takes, I guess you could say. There's this take here. It looks pretty good. Let me zoom in here. It looks pretty good. Not too much grain on the footage. There's gonna be a little bit of grain, obviously, because it was still getting darker, but then you cut to this, and you can just tell right away. I mean, look at the hand there. But let me go back. There's a lot more grain than on this footage. Also, you can see the colors are a little different. Let me zoom in on the snow here. For this one, it's a bit more blue, and you go over here, and it's a bit more white. So again, I could have fixed that in post, but I fixed it as much as I could without changing many of the other colors in the background, because I didn't want it to be that much different. Also, with the retro filter I had on the footage, I was able to be a bit more lenient with myself with the color grading errors, because you wouldn't be able to notice it as much with the TV lines and it being a bit more pixelated and the frame rate being changed. So it was a bit more forgiving, I guess you could say. I'm basically showing you this to say, like, there's going to be errors in your work, right? It's never going to be perfect. If you're a beginner like me, if you're a professional, you're going to make sure none of that's noticeable because you know exactly how to do that, but I don't, right? So there's going to be errors in my work, but I was more lenient with myself because I'm like, you know what? I'm just starting out and I'm a one-man team, right? But I want to move to this shot here. This shot and this shot as well. This same sequence. I was playing around with masking, and there's a little button down here. When you click on the footage you want, there's this button right here, the Object Mask tool. And what that does, especially for the footage, is you click that, you draw around the subject that you want, and it'll outline it. It'll show you like, hey, make sure that this is exactly what you want and there's nothing else in it. Basically, yeah, you click the object mask tool, you highlight around the subject that you want, it confirms to make sure that, hey, you know, you see the lines here, that this is exactly what you want to be tracking. So you click this middle button here and it tracks for the entire clip length. And you can see here on the outlines that
You move. Don't know where.
I'm not gonna do that while it's there, but yeah, you see on the outlines, it follows each very specific point. This little outline here for the red haze outline, what I did was I expanded the border for what could be, what it would track. It'll still track that outline, but it expanded it. And then, well, that's why it's called expansion. Then I added a little bit of feathering so that it blended it in more and not have like a fine line cut, because if I didn't add that, then you would be able to tell the difference in color and you'd be able to see the fine line there. So the feathering basically makes it smoother and it blends in more with the scene. So now that it's here, you can't really tell that that I'm pasted in there, which makes it look more real. You can kind of see here, you can kind of see a little bit of a black, watch like an inch outside of my head. You can see a little bit, even up here, a little bit of a darker color going around. That's because obviously when I filmed this, it was getting dark outside and this part would have been filmed later than this part. Also, you can kind of tell by the skin tone is a little darker here. Now you can see here, right there, my hand goes actually over my coat there. Now, once I pasted this guy in, I realized that when I put my hand in there, this guy was on top. So this is the coat. My hand was supposed to be here realistically, because that's just how it would have worked in the how far my hand was away from the bench and stuff. But because it went like this, it instantly phased and it put it like behind, and it didn't really look that good. Also, since I had the feathering on here, it would just fade out my hand. So what I did was I added an object mask to this guy, even though he was already on the footage. And the reason I did that was so I could have that part go over top. So now when I zoom in here, you can't really tell in the video because it goes so fast, but we'll go frame by frame. It just, boom, it just goes right over top and you can't really tell. Again, my hand kind of cuts off there slightly. Oh, well, there we go. Not really. Yeah, it just goes over top. You can't really tell that there's like an actual masking there. And the reason I added that, it's a very quick clip, but you'll notice it if I didn't put the mask there. My hand would just fade out. But since it's in here, it's very unnoticeable. And that's exactly what I wanted to happen, pretty much. So now, because I'll show you what it looks like without the masking. Let me turn the object mask off. This is what my hand would look like. Since it would be like this, my hand would go there and it would just fade out. Obviously, why would I want that? That doesn't make any sense. That would look stupid. If I was doing some sort of like, I'm a ghost or something, then yeah, I would have my hand fade out, but that wasn't the point. The point was to make it look like there was two of me and they were sitting beside each other. And if my hand fades out, that would just take you out of the experience, right? Let's move on to the actual effects I had on it, the visual effects that made it look like it was in an old retro TV. So basically, I have 2 adjustment layers and 1 graphic layer. Now this graphic layer is going to be the TV bars that you would see. So turn that on. It adds these fine little bars. You'll see at the top here, there's a little bit of room, and I'll show you why there's a little bit of room in a second. This layer has multiple, this would be the outer, let me just turn it on and show you. This would be the outer edge here, and it just kind of fading around, also adding the kind of square effects to the video. And then this adjustment layer would be the posterizing time, which basically lowers the frame rate, because I filmed this in 60 frames per second. This would lower it to whatever I set it to. In this case, it would be 15 frames a second, because I really wanted it to have that like retro kick to it, and a lower frame rate would do just that. It would do the trick that I'm needing it to do, which is make it a retro style. But yeah, so this last adjustment layer is just to have the low frame rate. But in this adjustment layer, we'll start with the mosaic tool. Now what the mosaic tool is these little squares you see. And you can see here, if I zoom in, however I can do that or not, that's also, I didn't really want to zoom in, so that's chill. No, well, okay, there we go. I have a bunch of keyframes and I put them in easy ease so it flows better. The mosaic effect adds these little squares you see, and it gives it, again, that little retro kick that I wanted. And going up and down here, basically adds more or less the little pixels there. So you can see at the bottom, it's just covering the entire screen with pixels. At the beginning of the video, I just wanted to have that little back and forth motion because I just thought it looked cool. Kind of see here. Doing its thing. Pretty cool. I thought it looked nice, and it just kind of fits the vibe a little bit. It's kind of getting you into that retro style. Then we have the lens distortion. What that is the curvature around the edge of the frame here to give it that little like vacuum sealed TV, whatever that's called, where it's like kind of curved at the front of the screen. So I wanted to kind of represent that same sort of style. It also, what it does is add a little bit of, right there, it's like distorting the sides of me a little bit. So it's like sort of in a sense duplicating me and then lowering the opacity on one of them. So it's just adding like a weird like hollow effect, I guess you could say, because right there you can zoom in, you can see a little bit of the background of the snow there while also having a little bit of me in there. It just adds, I really wanted to have like a kind of chromatic aberration to it, which is like the RGB kind of near the edges gets more. It's kind of cool, but I couldn't figure out a way to do that. Also, I figured it looked pretty good as is there. I also apologize if I'm explaining this poorly because this is just kind of how I learned it. This was my learning style. So the way I explain it is kind of the way how I learned it, right? So the definitions I'm giving you might not be the exact definition. So don't just take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is just how I made my file. And yeah, so now that I have this lens distortion, and this kind of explains why there was a little bit of a gap here with the TV lines, is so I could move them down so I have more room to put the rest of the TV lines down here, and the lens distortion covers the blank space there. For the final part for my video, I have the November part 2 text graphic sign and also the Your Way. So I have the posterized time below. So basically anything below the adjustment layers is what the adjustment layer affects. So I have this adjustment layer below the text because I wanted everything in the actual footage to be at 15 frames per second, except for the text. I wanted that to be at 60 frames because I just thought it looked really nice. It flowed well, and the colors just flow a lot better. You can see right here that the colors go left to right, right to left. It flows at 60 frames and it has that smoothness to it, where if it was at the 15 frames, it would be choppy, obviously because it's at 15 frames, but I just wanted the text to really have that style to it. Also, since we have the lens distortion on, you can kind of see what I was talking about earlier. My face kind of gets cut off there. Also, you can see that in the text right here. If I turn this off, it's gone. But since I have it on, it kind of puts a little bit of a lower opacity duplicated version behind it, and it looks really nice, and I think it's really cool. But yeah, there's not much to it. I mean, the posterized time is just affecting every single one of these tracks, so it's all in 15 frames, and then the text is in 60 frames, and it just looks really nice. Then everything, all the lens distortion and the TV bars is applied to the rest of the footage because this is on top of everything. And then to kind of bring us home, I have the Serenity Out Now screen here with the Your Way graphic and the flowing colors still going. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward now that I'm looking at it, but it did take me 6 hours because I was learning as I was going. Also, it took like an hour to render the footage because I rendered it in 4K 60 frames, which is a little bit beefy and probably beefier than I needed it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It was pretty straightforward now that I'm thinking about it. If I did this again, I would be able to do this a lot quicker, but it was really, really cool learning experience to actually do this and to make it in a retro style. If my buddy, shout out to Evan, by the way, if Evan didn't suggest having a retro style onto this and giving me like pointers, not even like, because he doesn't really know how to use this program, but just like pointers on how it should look in general, then the rest of the music video would have just been it would have just been this, and it would have just been that in 60 frames per second, and that would have just been kind of boring and bland. So now that I have it with this, it really makes it pop more, and it really just emphasizes obviously a retro style, even though it's not really a retro song. It's just, I just wanted to give that vibe off, and I thought it was pretty cool. That is how I made my music video. I want to make more music videos. I think it'd be pretty cool. I think hopefully by the time this video goes up, it would have been 2 weeks since my album dropped, Serenity. I'm hoping to drop this video that you're watching right now this Friday. So if it drops this Friday, my album's been out for 2 weeks. If you're new here, go listen to the album. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I spent 5 months working on it. I want to do like a little series kind of going through how I made each of my songs. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. But right now, this is kind of part 1 for the Serenity behind the scenes series I want to do. If you haven't watched the music video yet, go check it out. It'll be somewhere on the screen. Yeah, hope you guys have a great day, and stream my album Serenity, out now on all music platforms by Your Way, YORWAI. I don't know if my finger was in the camera frame or not there, but yeah, go stream Your Way, and yeah, hope you guys have a great day.